Walter J. or Jack Charlton was born August 9, 1919, to Mr. and Mrs. Walter Leslie Charlton in Watertown, South Dakota. The Charlton family moved 18 times through Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, and even Illinois before Jack was 20 years old, as his father struggled to make a living in the unpredictable automobile business during bad economic times. Charlton responded to a December 1941 draft notice and reported to Fort Snelling in Minneapolis in January of 1942. While Charlton was serving with the U.S. Army in Melbourne, Australia, he was offered the opportunity to apply for Officers Candidate School. One of the instructors in the first class at that school was Lou Beckman, a member of a prominent Kankakee banking family. Beckman spoke often about Kankakee and encouraged Jack to come see us after the war was over. At the conclusion of the war in the Pacific, Charlton again met Lou Beckman, who repeated his invitation to visit Kankakee. After returning to Minnesota, Charlton received a telephone call from Lou Beckman inviting him to Kankakee for Easter vacation. After a second visit, Jack was convinced that Kankakee was the place to be and made plans to relocate to Kankakee. Jack Charlton moved to Kankakee to help Beckman with his real estate business in 1947. Gretchen Beckman, Lou Beckman's second cousin, and Jack Charlton were married in Kankakee in 1949. Jack Charlton and his two partners, Lou Beckman and Arthur Beckman, purchased 60 acres across from West Meadowview for a small shopping center. The center was a direct result of a survey taken in 1952 by Homer Hoyt, one of the country's foremost market research firms. The Meadowview Corporation, which developed Meadowview Center, was formed in 1953. Officers for the corporation were Louis Beckman, president, Arthur L. Beckman, vice president, and Walter J. Charlton, secretary-treasurer. Ground was broken for the first group of stores, including the Walgreens drugstore, on March 27, 1955. After a large plot of land was sold to Sears Roebuck & Company in 1957, the project began to snowball. In 1961, the partners began building a second string of stores facing Brookmont Boulevard, including the J.C. building. Meadowview Bank, now First American Bank, was added in 1962. The Little Corporal Restaurant, now the America's Bistro, in 1964. The movie theater was added in 1967. Jack Charlton joined First Trust Bank in 1950 and was elected a director at First Trust in 1953, then executive vice president in January of 1962, president in 1965, and chairman of the board in 1974. In addition, Jack was a visionary in creating the Personal Banking Center at First Trust, which provided the following services to customers: a cash reserve checking account, check guarantees to provide positive identification, and an American Express Executive Money Card program. The grand opening of the new First Trust and Savings Bank at 1 Dearborn Square was held in October of 1971.
The bank building, which is National City Bank, wouldn't have been here in downtown Kankakee if it wouldn't have been for Jack Charlton, because he was an integral part of building that edifice in our community. You know, and at that time, when the First Trust Bank building was built, that was very modern. That was a big change in our community, to build this brand new office building and take a chance that was going to work for the bank, and that the business community was going to embrace it and rent that building. So he did many things, you know, for our community that yet today leave a lasting impression.
I was without a job.